What's up everyone, John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here, and welcome to part 2 of the Android smartphone smackdown. In round 1 we covered screen, call quality and speaker, battery, text entry, browser speed and operating system. In this round we are going to cover the camera qualities, both still and video, the designs of the phone themselves, multimedia, and some miscellaneous specs. So sit back, relax, and let's see who's the king of Android. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into camera. Both of these sort of sport very high-tech cameras. Both have 8 megapixel sensors with dual LED flashes. So you can see there's the 8 megapixel sensor on the EVO, and there it is on the Droid X. You can see the LED flashes on each. I'll go ahead and jump out of that. So one thing that I should mention too, this is going to come into play, is the EVO has a front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera. So I'm going to go ahead and put up some sample video and pictures of each, and you guys can be the judge for what you think looks like better picture and video quality. Alright, so they're both being recorded at exactly the same time, at pretty normal light conditions. You can see sort of what each look like. Alright, so they're both being recorded at exactly the same time, at pretty normal light conditions. You can see sort of what each look like. Okay, so picture and video quality using the 8 megapixel sensor is pretty darn close. They both look very, very similar. One of the big differences here, and I mentioned just a few minutes ago, is the addition of the front-facing camera on the EVO 4G. It is a 1.3 megapixel camera, so it's a pretty capable camera. So taking the whole ability to video chat out of it, the fact that you can sort of take your self-portraits with a bit more accuracy, or take video with a bit more accuracy and sort of see yourself or see what you want to show, definitely gives the edge to the EVO. Certainly considering that camera and video quality, it looks to be very close. But that's not the only determining factor here. Let's talk about the camera interfaces, since Motorola and HTC sort of put their own take on how you interact with the camera. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So we'll jump into camera here, and it's the same thing for video as well. So you get a sort of a few options. I'll go ahead and put, let's say, my keys in here, so we have sort of a subject to focus on. And if I look at that, you can sort of see what the choices are going to be. You can turn the flash on or off. You can certainly zoom in if you'd like. You can jump into photo or video. You get some complex options here. So you have you've got brightness, you've got your contrast, saturation, or sharpness. You can pick some effects if you'd like, and then you can sort of jump into settings. Widescreen, you can pick the resolution, even some ISO settings there as well, which is pretty advanced for a camera phone. So we'll go ahead and jump out of this, and let's take a look at how Motorola's implemented their camera. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing. We'll jump into camera and see what we have here. It's a very sort of different take on the same thing. So they've got something called scenes, which lets you sort of pick how you want to look at things. So auto, portrait, landscape. We'll go ahead and jump back and see the sort of differences for each. You get some effects as well. So normal, black and white. Turn the flash on or off, or switch to. Both have really good focusing mechanisms, and the picture quality, like we saw, is very close. The Droid X sort of gives you more general options, I'd say, for novices, whereas if you're sort of a serious photographer and you left your DSLR at home and you have to use your camera or use your phone, you're going to get a bit more options: ISO settings, contrast ratio, white levels and balances. So sort of what you have the options to do, I think the EVO has got to take the camera around because of the interface and the front-facing camera. So we'll go ahead and jump on to the next category, which is going to be design. How are the things going to look when you whip them out of your pocket? So let's go ahead and talk about size of these. 4.3-inch devices are very, very big. And if you look at these next to each other, almost makes the EVO 4G look small. And how can that be when they both have the same screen size? Well, look at them next to each other. I'll sort of line up the bottoms. And you can see that there is a difference here with the Droid X. Definitely is a bit larger, and if I hold them next to each other and side by side, you can really see that difference. You can see that there is also that hump. From a thinness standpoint, they're both very close, but that hump, whether you love it or hate it, is definitely an aesthetic difference, and it is going to make the Droid X be actually bigger. And for a 4.3-inch phone that's already going to be creating quite a bulge in your pocket, you're going to have even a larger one with the Droid X. So there are some other differences as well. You've got capacitive buttons across the bottom to do your controls. We actually have physical buttons here on the Droid X. Now, generally, I have not been the biggest fan of capacitive buttons. For instance, on the Nexus 1, they weren't very responsive, and I've sort of found that on most devices, they're not very responsive. However, on the EVO 4G, they work great. I haven't had any issues with them whatsoever. And the physical buttons work just as well. Both have sort of dedicated some camera functionality. The EVO 4G also sports a kickstand in case you want to watch some multimedia, which is quite nice on a screen that big. You're not going to sort of get that same thing with the Droid X. Now that hump may be to sort of make it look a little bit flatter on the surface and less sort of moving around. As we've seen in some other devices, it does sit very well. And the camera sort of jutting out. You get sort of that classic Droid look on the back. We saw with the initial Droid, the back is not metal, it's sort of a soft touch plastic. But from a design standpoint, which one looks better, certainly I think that has to go to the EVO 4G. Both phones look great. But if I'm going to use something that's got a 4.3-inch screen, I want it to be as small as possible. And from a smallness standpoint, the EVO 4G is definitely going to take that. Alright, so let's talk about multimedia. Here, both support HDMI out for connection to TVs or your computers, which is really nice in case you want to watch a movie or something, or a video clip that you made. You can go ahead and watch it right on your TV. However, the Droid X supports DLNA, which is a Digital Living Network Alliance, which allows you to watch media on other DNLA devices such as TVs or laptops. So it's certainly a nice plus. It also has Blockbuster built in. You can actually download movies right from here. You can see Blockbuster right there. We saw that, I believe, on the HD2 as well. So you get sort of another way to view content on here. In addition to what we talked about earlier, a little bit of a nicer screen makes multimedia viewing on the Droid X a little bit of a better experience. So let's talk about specs just real quickly. These things are very close, but I couldn't, in a good conscience, talk about both these devices without mentioning that the EVO 4G is called 4G for a reason. It does support 4th generation wireless networks, which are noticeably faster. So without talking about megabits per second and getting to the actual sort of nitty-gritty, just know that 4G can be up to 10 times faster than 3G networks. So you have the option of being on a 4G network if you have service where those are, and Sprint's rolling out more and more. With the Droid X, you're sort of limited to just the 3G, which is great for most people, but it's nice to have the option. So if we're talking about sort of specs and these sort of miscellaneous intangibles, I have to give a round to the EVO 4G just for having 4th generation wireless technology and having the option to either use it or not use it. So for everybody keeping track, here's how the rounds broke down. The Droid X came out strong. It took screen, call quality, and speaker, battery life, and text entry. The EVO 4G swung right back, taking browser speed. We tied in the operating system. The EVO took the still camera and took the video camera and took the design. The Droid came back with multimedia, and that miscellaneous specs, the addition of the 4G, is what gave the EVO 4G rather, the edge in the end. And for the final total of Droid X5, EVO 4G 6, and one round is a tie. So we still have the reigning king as the EVO 4G. Now that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that the Droid X is an inferior phone, just so there are some intangibles that give the EVO 4G a bit of an edge. If you want to pick up a Droid X, you're going to get a fantastic, very capable device on a really reliable network. So really there are no losers here if you have to pick one of these phones. It's like picking between chocolate or ice cream. Both are going to taste delicious, and you're going to end up with a delicious treat, no matter which one you go for. So anyway, guys, I am John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo. Be sure to check out the website for all your tech news, interact with users in our built-in social network, or even make your own sublog with full WordPress content management, and put in your own ad code and even make a buck or two. For exclusive content, check me out at Twitter, twitter.com/John4Lakers. I am John Rettinger, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.